my name is Zach Dressel and I'm the curator at the Earl Scruggs Center located in Shelby, North Carolina. Today I want to welcome you to our newest special exhibition. This is African American Builders and Architects. And this section we're in right now was actually created by Preservation North Carolina in collaboration with the Gallery of Art and Design at North Carolina State University. And what this section does is it traces the contributions of African American builders and architects from the colonial period up until the Civil War. And one of the most interesting things about that is this exhibit not only gives a great overview of the history of slavery in the state, but it also talks about the ways in which slaves would work or free African Americans would work and those differences. And it also shows the variations between region, whether it be the mountain region, the Piedmont region, where we are here in Shelby, or the coastal region. It talks a lot about Wilmington. Another thing that this exhibit does extremely well is it not only gives a great overview of these places and their histories, as well as a great overview of the roles of both enslaved persons and free persons during that period in building and construction, but it also does a great job of profiling certain individuals. Individuals such as Joe Welcome or Thomas Day, a great carpenter, master carpenter from the Durham area. And so I think that this part of the exhibit is one of the most interesting things that we have to offer right now. So something we decided to add to this loaned exhibition from Preservation North Carolina is a collection of tools from the Cleveland County Historical Collection. And one of the reasons we really wanted to do that is to offer a physical representation of what you're reading in some of these panels. So what we have here is period correct tools, and these were tools that would have been used by these artisans in going about their craft. We have things like saws, and we have wood planes, and we have mallets and augers and all sorts of things that were used around the middle of the 19th century in order to do construction and building. As I said, these all came from the Cleveland County Historical Collection, and so that also helps to create a local component within this exhibit and really root this exhibit in Cleveland County, which also has to do with another section that we'll be talking about later. As I mentioned in the previous sections, we really wanted to try to root this exhibit that came from Preservation North Carolina into Cleveland County history and heritage. And one of the ways that we decided to do this was to talk about African American contributions in Cleveland County. And so myself and co-curator Chavis Gash decided to redefine the term builders and take it away from the physical meaning of constructing something and giving it a more metaphorical meaning, which is the building of communities. And so this Cleveland County component or section to the exhibit talks a lot more about the creation of African American communities in and around Cleveland County, with specific focus on the African American communities in eastern and western Shelby. And so one of the great things about this collaboration is it's one of the first times that an exhibit has been done in Cleveland County that focuses strictly on African American history. And so what we've really tried to do is our best interpretation of the broad strokes of African American history in Cleveland County. Now, of course, this won't cover everything, and we perfectly understand that. And in order to help alleviate some of the gaps and losses that are found, we will try to create more and more exhibits in the future through pop-up exhibits and through other social media campaigns and things like that in order to help continue to raise awareness for African American heritage in Cleveland County. What this exhibit really does is it follows a chronological roadmap of African American heritage in Cleveland County, and it takes it from just after the Civil War all the way up into today. And it tracks the building of these African American communities and it shows the ways that they vary, the ways that they're the same, and it shows how they've battled change throughout their history. One of the interesting parts about the Cleveland County component of this exhibit is we were able to again bring out some pieces from the Cleveland County Historical Collection, but this time we were able to bring out pieces that deal with African American heritage, something which we haven't really been able to do very much in the past, and something I wanted to do a lot more in the future. So a couple of the pieces that we have featured here are two different types of constitutions. One is a constitution for the Shelby Negro Women's Club, which ran from the mid-1920s and is still in some variations and forms today. And this particular constitution is from 1965. The other is a constitution of the North Carolina State Federation of Negro Women's Clubs, and that was kind of the overall body of clubs that were devoted, and it's kind of the governing body of clubs that were devoted on a local level, similar to the Shelby Club. A few other artifacts that we have that are associated with African American heritage in this exhibit are a series of marriage certificates, and these are extremely historically important marriage certificates because they are from recently freed slaves. And all of these marriage certificates are from the years 1866 and 1867. And why those are important and why they're important to put in this exhibit is because they represent the newly found freedoms that former slaves were given as part of the ending of the Civil War, and that was that for the first time they were able to legally get married in the South. And when you have former slaves getting married and having families, that's when you start to find these communities being built that we talk about throughout this Cleveland County component. These communities would not have been able to happen without the families that inhabit them. And so these pieces of paper, while on the front seem like any old average legal document from the 1860s, are actually extremely important from a historical standpoint and really give us an insight into how things worked after the Civil War and how newly freed slaves were able to grant themselves more freedoms and to fight for more freedoms moving on into the future and building their communities. Another couple things that we have are from much further in the future, but still very far from where we are today. One piece that we have is a high school commencement program from 1939 for Cleveland High School. And Cleveland High School is featured pretty prominently in this part of the exhibit because it was really a mainstay of the Shelby African American community. It was the first and largest African American school in Shelby up until about 1967, when full integration happened in Cleveland County. So there are still a lot of people living in the African American community in Shelby today who have very fond memories of that school. And so to have this commencement program from 1939 is such an interesting part of Cleveland County history, and it gives actually a great insight into a lot of Black-owned businesses from that time, which are things that many of them don't exist anymore. And so it gives historians like myself a great look into how things were in the African American community in Shelby going back 80 years ago. The final piece that we have is another thing that is a great insight for us historians, and that is a stock certificate from the Cleveland County Negro Fair. Now, that is something that obviously is not still active. This particular certificate is from 1956, and the Cleveland County Negro Fair was created in response to the Cleveland County Fair, which was largely segregated up until the late 1960s. The first fair, the first Cleveland County Negro Fair, started in 1927 and was a way for the African American communities all around Cleveland County to come together and celebrate their community, celebrate agriculture, celebrate the farmers, celebrate all kinds of schools and really create this community atmosphere for themselves. And it was a way for them to be able to still come together and still have their own type of celebration that, unfortunately, because of the times, was separate of that of the white celebration at the Cleveland County Fair. So those are some of the items that we're able to really display in context of this exhibit, and are things that I think are so important because, again, a lot of these pieces of history tell a story of change that has happened over the past 150 years, the ways that things have changed in the way that race relations have been handled, and the ending of segregation, the ending of slavery. This kind of helps to trace some of those great and amazing changes that have happened for the African American communities in and around Cleveland County. I want to wrap up by thanking everyone out there who has been so supportive of the Earl Scruggs Center through these very difficult times we've been in over the past year. I also want to welcome you to come and see this exhibit in person. It's on display starting now and going through August 7th. So there's plenty of time there for folks to come out and take a look at it in person. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get into as much detail as I would have liked to have in this virtual kind of exhibit. But that doesn't mean that you can't come out and see it for yourself. So again, I want to thank all of you so much for all of your support, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon.